Hey everybody, it's Emery again with Ultra Sabers, and I'm here today to give you guys a tutorial on how to create and edit effects for the Diamond controller with your Ultra Sabers launcher. First, we're going to go ahead and open up the launcher. I've already downloaded and installed it, so we're just going to open it up as administrator. I'm going to go ahead and turn the saber here. You can see the blade on the camera there. Connecting. Now, before we get started, I want to give a brief explanation as to what exactly effects are. Anyone who's used the Obsidian soundboard or the Emerald driver are used to thinking of the light and the sound as two separate things. You upload your sound fonts, use the Emerald driver to change your light. Two are separate things. With the Diamond controller, they are synchronized to give you much more utility. So what an effect is light and sound synchronized as one, and you're going to upload those onto your Diamond controller through the font wizard as effects. So if that doesn't make any sense, it should by the end of this tutorial. Let's go ahead and go over it. So I'm going to maximize this. The effect editor is here at the bottom left hand corner. We're going to open that up. And here you see we have the power LED. You expand that with the plus. You see there's red, green, blue, and white. Those are the controls for your LEDs. You have the ability to turn these off. Now, it is our recommendation to you that if you are going to have a light effect for your effect, as in it's not just the sound, because there will be some effects that you only want sound. You aren't going to want it to change the lighting, and I'll go over that later on, namely your swing effect. But in any case, if you do want there to be a lighting effect for your effect, you're always going to want to have these, all four of these turned on, even if you're not using other colors. And I'll explain why. If you're not going to use that color, just go ahead and take it. As you can see, I'm changing the white now and bottoming out to 0. But you still want to turn it on, which that's going to allow the effects to transition between one another smoothly. So anytime you're going to have a lighting effect, I recommend having all four of these on. So it does give you the ability to turn it off. In some cases, you may want to actually turn it off. Once you start playing with the Diamond controller, if you're like me, you're going to feel like a mad scientist. Playing with all of these colors and the effects and the things they do. And once you get the lightsaber to do what you want it to do, it's just going to feel like your own creation. So in any case, it's my initial advice for beginners to have all four of these on when you are creating effects, and to bottom anything out that you are not using, whether it be red, green, blue, whatever. Have it bottom out to 0, but still have it turned on. So that's the power LED accent. This is right now connected to the AV switch on this saber. As you can see, it is turned on all the way up, and this dotted line here is a continuation. So I'm going to give a brief explanation as to the dotted line. What that means is play until, and what that means is it's going to continue to play that lighting effect until something else overrides it. For example, Flash on Clash. If you have an effect for the Clash, lighting effect is going to override that if it's the dotted line. So it's going to continue to do this until. So that's what this dotted line means. So keep that in mind whether you're creating the hum or anything else. This dotted line means continue to do this until it's overrode with the lockup effect. Power up, power down. Any other effect will override it when it's the dotted line. So keep that in mind, dotted line. So this is the accent LED. If you want it on, obviously you want to turn this up so that it shows during your idle hum. If you ever wanted to pulse, flicker, do anything of that sort, you're going to have to change that all around here. So if you wanted to do some crazy flickering effect during power up, when you create your power up effect, you're going to have to change your accent LED here. So moving right along. The first thing you're going to want to do anytime you're creating an effect is add a sound. That is going to be the baseline for the effect. So I would not recommend modifying the lighting until you have added your sound. That's going to be the first thing you want to do when you are creating an effect. So we're going to come here, I'm going into my Obsidian folder, I'm grabbing a hum. So we're going to start with the idle hum. And this is what plays on your Sabre when it's not doing anything else, when it's idle. Let's go ahead and hit play here. Beautiful. That is the idle hum. So hit the plus, and this allows us to see the time and the frequency of the idle hum. So let me go ahead and hit play. You'll see this bar move across. Maybe you can't. Let's go ahead and maximize it. So there's a bar here that moves across that tells you this, where the sound is at and the timing for the sound effect. So now we know that the idle hum sound that we have and we're going to be working with is about less than 5.5 seconds long. And that is important because we're going to want the lighting to match up with the ending of the sound effect. And as you can see, there's this bar here. I can actually move this, and as it moves, it's also moving on the lighting effect. So you can know where you want to end this. And it gets even better. We have this little plus and minus up here where you can zoom in to make the intervals much, much larger. And then once you've zoomed in, this bar here allows you to scroll back and forth. So you can get it right to the end here. See precisely where the sound effect ends. And it's right between 5.27 and 5.2725. I mean, you can get that exact. So, again, I'm going to zoom in out a little bit. I don't need to get that exact. And I can pull this bar to the right where the sound ends. So you know that the end of your light should match up with that bar there. So keep that in mind when you're creating light effects. You want it to end when the sound ends. So let's get to making some light effects. Excuse me. Scroll this back to the left. All right, so we're at the start here. Let's say, for example, let's start with a color mix because it's easy to do just simply red, green, or blue. Let's start with violet amethyst, for example. So to create violet amethyst, I'm going to give it, max out my blue. And I'm going to grab red and put my red at about 150. Hit test, see what it looks like. It's a little pinkish, I don't know. But in the essence of time, we're going to move on. So violet amethyst. What actually, the key to creating effects are points. So you're going to have to create points throughout the timing for your effect. And the way you create points is to just right click. And there's two ways you can add a point. You can either add it manually, and at that point I'm going to be moving it by hand, or I'm going to go ahead and delete this point. You can add a point with values. So add point with values. Basically, let's say, for example, I wanted the violet amethyst to start to taper off at 1.5 seconds. So at 1.5 seconds, go to add value, add point with value. At 1.5 seconds on my red, which is channel 1. So channel 1 is red, channel 2 is green, 3 blue, 4 white or amber, depending. I want it at 0 for red because that's what I use to create violet amethyst. And I want it at 0 for blue. And then what I would also like is, let's say I want this to transition to green. So what I want is at 1.5 seconds, I would like green to be maxed out by the time violet amethyst is tapering down. So I'm going to put my green at 255 at the 1.5 seconds. And we're not going to be using silver, so silver is 0. And hit OK. And it's created the points for me. Now my green maxed out right here where the violet amethyst began to taper down. So you can also go back and create points before. So just add a point here, click blue. So just click the color you want to work with in order to add a point manually. Click blue. I'm going to add a point. I'm going to have it at a second here so that it begins to, it's at full strength until a second, and then it tapers down. I'm going to do the same thing with my red. Then green, I'm going to grab this, add a point. I'm going to have my green off until Violet starts to taper down. Then it's going to go green. So green, I'm going to actually have this go at max for about a second. So that's going to take me to 2.5. Then I'm going to have this taper down for half of a second. And so let's go ahead and do white. White's feeling lonely, so let's pull this point on white here, and I'm going to have this begin to taper up right where the green goes down. Then it's going to finish off as white. And then, like I was saying, we're going to be mindful of where this ends. So this ends here. And what I'm going to want to do is, because this is going to loop, I'm actually going to want this to end as violet amethyst. So what I'm going to do is grab my white, add a point. I'm going to have this taper down right here. Add another point. 4.5 seconds. Then I'm going to grab my blue, add a point. Add a point and have this come up right where the white tapers down. And again, I can look at the white, click it, grab this point, and you can see the exact time here. It's 4.5 seconds exactly is where that goes off. So my blue is going to max out at 4.5 seconds exactly. And then I'm going to do the same thing with my red. Grab red, right click, create a point, bring it over, start it here, right click, add a point. And then I'm going to bring it up to 150 at 4.5 seconds, because that's where I want the violet amethyst to start up. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and add endpoints to everything where this ends, which is at, I believe we said this was, zoom in again, 4.5.2 is what we said. Zoom in and get that time. Scroll to the end. Yep. It's about 5.25. That's what we're going to do. So I'm going to just right click and add a value, point with value 5.26. I'm going to give red 150. Green is off. Blue, want maxed out at 255, and white is off. All right, so here are my points. It's a little off from the end of the sound. If you actually want to, you can grab those points and move them to match that bar. And again, this is for the idle hum. I'm doing this to make sure that with the way this loops, it transitions properly back to the beginning of the idle sound. Grab my white. and hit test. So violet amethyst, green, white, violet amethyst, and it'll loop. So that got a little wordy. We're like 15 minutes into this, but this is a very extensive process. So I hope you guys, from watching that, got the gist of some of the functionality. You're going to be creating points. You can create points manually or with values. It's about the timing. You're going to match it up with the sound. And here's a very, very, very important part of creating effects, and that is to save them. Please, anytime you're going to create an effect or even go in and edit effect, please make sure you have it saved. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and save this on my desktop as my video effect. We're going to save this. So, close this out. I'm going to create another effect really quickly for you guys. Clear. Start it all over. So, as I said, whenever you're creating an effect, you're going to want to go and grab a sound, because that's going to be your